is a low energy week. It is your week 11 recap. I don't even know if I have the energy to pick up papers and then crumble them. It seems like too much of a chore at this point, and to be quite honest with you, the recent loss to Rollo Tomassi has taken me a bit out of character. But let's get this recap started. What do you say? I'm flipping papers. I'm not crumbling them. I'm feeling a bit more passive. Let's give you those week 11 scores. I lost to Rollo Tomassi by a final score of 111-83. Of course, he didn't get the production that I had taunted him about, with the New England Patriots scoring 11. But the rest of his team faring out quite nicely. Lamar Jackson with a 31. Diggs with an 18 out of fucking nowhere. I don't know where the fuck that 15 came from. Joe Mixon with 15 points. And on the other side, I got 16 from Ezekiel Elliott, 15 from Travis Kelce, and 14 from Patrick Mahomes. So I have fallen short yet again, though this loss doesn't hurt quite as much as last week's loss. As I told you, I had a fighting chance Monday night, but Emmanuel Sanders failed me, and now I have been failed by my entire team and have fallen to a record of 4-7, and now I'm fighting for my playoff life. I'll get to those week 12 matchups in just a second. You also had the Black Cat losing. Oh, at least in my head, he lost. The Black Cat winning 78 to Pineapple Jugglers 76, putting up much more of a fight than I thought he would. Getting 20 points from Stephen Ridley, 19 from Mark Ingram, and 14 from Jacoby Brissett. But it was not enough to beat the Black Cat, who got 16 from Mac, 13 from his San Francisco defense, and also 13 points from that failure, Keenan Allen, who got him the necessary points that he needed for the Monday night. I mean, he's got to do something, right, Ed? He's got to do fucking something. Ed, of course, is probably sitting in his living room saying, that Bundy, telling me I've got a loser on my hands. Only time he's done anything for you. At a timely moment, I'll give you that. It's very timely, but for the rest of the season, he hasn't done shit for you. You also had Dad Bod winning 103 to the Green Rangers, 71 points. 21 points from Drew Brees. Thank you, Paul. 22 points from Chark Jr. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Andy's scores. I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to hate on Andy so bad that I'm skipping ahead. 21 points from Drew Brees, 17 from Mike Thomas, and 13 points from Joe or Jamison Crowder. Orlando not getting much out of his Hydra. 15 from Matt Ryan, 13 from Samuels, and 11 from his kicker. Jago Papa winning 92-70 up against Naida Kali, getting 33 points from Josh Allen. And I will give Andy credit for the very first time this season making a managerial move that actually yielded some benefit. And Andy actually did something that yielded benefit. I mean, look, he threw Josh Allen in there. You know, I think he started him before, unless it was somebody else. But it worked out for him. His quarterback was on a bye. So cheers to Andy for that. And, of course, Pedro getting 26 from his quarterback, 14 from Le'Veon Bell, who's been a complete and utter disappointment this season. Did I say disappointment this season? Low energy. Ewok Rape winning 94-72 up against Fuck You, who is undoubtedly the worst team in the league. And at this point, I guess it's a good point to transition to the standings. Fuck You's the worst team in this league. Never mind the fact that the Pineapple Jugglers have 2 wins and he has 4, but the simple fact that he has the lowest amount of points with 864 and the lowest amount of points excuse me, the lowest amount of points scored against him also with 894. So he scored the least and they've scored against him the least. So that to me equals the worst team in the league. But obviously, the Pineapple Jugglers will walk away with the number 1 pick as they have tanked the season long before Fuck You decided to throw his season away. Well, his season hasn't been thrown away. I'll get to that in just a second. Let's get to the divisions. You have Jago Papa at top with 9-2. Then you have Rolo Thomas C 7-3. Naida Kali 6-5. Team Bundy at 4-7. Pineapple Jugglers at 2-9. Over in the Sega division, the lesser division, the filth, the afterbirth. Eli, the afterbirth. Drainage, Eli. It's a horrible division. The Black Cat at top of that horrible division with a record of 7-4. Ewok Rape at 6-5. Dad Bod at 5-5. The Green Ranger at 4-7, and Team Fuck You at 4-7. The top scores in the league are as follows. Paul at top with 1,179. Andy right behind him with 1,167. And of course, next week after all this has gone down, after the week 12 stuff has gone down, I'll get into the point differences between Andy and Paul, even though Andy is well on his way to winning the division because Andy's matchup. Okay, you have Team Bundy with 1,068, and then you have the participants from the other division, Jay with 1,036 and Ed with 1,006 points. So the 4-7 teams, and that would include Team Bundy along with Orlando and Hensel, are really the bubble teams right now. Jay's gotten a bit fortunate over the past few weeks, so he's elevated just a little bit. He's better than us at the moment. Hensel is, as I said, he's the worst team. So I think Hensel's basically like in a he's in the middle of a field and there's nothing but fucking landmines around. And if he skips one or the other, he's gonna fucking explode. It doesn't matter. This week he faces Ed, and next week he faces Andy. So it's not very likely that Hensel will get in the playoffs because of this reason. Hensel also has not won out of all 4-7 teams. Hensel is the only one that has not won any consecutive games. So if you're expecting him to win consecutive games at this pivotal point in the season with the 2 top divisional teams, even though, Ed being at top of the Sega division is kind of like, the valedictorian of a special ed class. That's really the best analogy I could give you. He's facing Ed and he's facing Andy, so it's not very likely that he's going to make it. So Hensel's already X'd out. He's already done. He will join Joe in the non-playoff group. Orlando faces me, and then he faces Eric. So a bit of an easier schedule for Orlando, but unfortunately for him, he will meet his demise this week. So what happens next week won't matter. Orlando is also the only one out of this 4-7 group who has not scored over 100 points. Still, Orlando still hasn't scored over 100 points. His highest point total of the season came in week 3. Week 3, he's a completely different team back then. Week 3 versus Jay at 94 points is the closest he's ever come to 100. And I think after that it was 91, then a series of 70s and 80s, and this is my opponent for the week. Orlando's team failed because of one player. And I'd like to take 2 to 3 seconds to give Orlando a moment to think about that player, and I want Orlando to please let me know if he knows exactly who I'm about to mention. Sony Michel, okay? Sony Michel was Orlando's 3rd pick. He is currently the 20th ranked running back. Sony Michel has been a huge failure because, look, in my opinion, in many people's opinions, and this correlates to what Paul and I were going back and forth about. When you pick someone, they are also the representation of who you did not pick at the moment. So that kind of gives you a way to scale the player's success. You know, he picked Sony Michel third. So at the time, these following running backs were available. You had Josh Jacobs, who's currently number 6, Chris Carson, who's currently number 10, Aaron Jones, who's currently number 3. That hurts. Mark Ingram, currently number 9. And Philip Lindsay of Team Bundy. A little bit more energy, you know, as I'm being more condescending towards Orlando. I think I'm generating some. I'll give P a reference here. I'm getting the Pimperelli. I'm getting the Pimperelli powers in me. I'm just generating more power. Then you have Philip Lindsay, who is currently the 13th ranked running back. So these are the players that Orlando had at the moment, and he still decided to trust a New England running back, which we all know. When we draft, we take a look at the projections, and if there's any New England people up there, I don't give a fuck if they are ranked 8th amongst all running. It's not happening. I'm taking a dude who's like 12th and he's a rookie, like Dro did, like Josh Jacobs. That's who I take that over Sony Michel. Like I'm never picking a New England running back anything above a 6, but nothing at 7th and on, you know, much less the 3rd like Orlando did. And he is the main reason why Orlando's team is tanked, because he is his best running back chance. And over the last 3 weeks, one is including a bye, I wouldn't say the last month, the last 3 weeks, Sony Michel has just amassed 7 points, 2 points, and 4 points. This week, you know, he's got this, what's his name? Goose. He's got that guy, and Sony Michel going out there. And that's Orlando's firepower, really. And I guess he's depending on a strong Hydra performance. I mean, shit, he's 31. You know, that's scary for me, by the way. That's very scary. Matt Ryan going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 31st against opposing quarterbacks and 32nd against opposing wide receivers. And he, of course, has Julio Jones, who, you know, it would be... God, I had a dream the other night that Julio Jones got injured the very first quarter of the game. And guys, I woke up, I was sobbing. I was like, oh my God. Then I went back to sleep. I was like, all right, it didn't happen to him, but you know, I would hate for something like that to actually manifest, but and you know what? And when I say stupid shit like that, notice what happens, because last week I said I wanted Andy to meet some form of misfortune, and that misfortune really ended up happening to Dro, which then connected itself to me with Tyreek Hill getting hurt. So I see how you work, fantasy gods. You smited me. You've smited me for my hubris. It's okay. You know, if you can't make this happen for me, then the hell with you, Crumb. The hell with you. Sorry. Getting a bit excited. So out of all these 4 and 7 teams, I have the strongest chance. But this is this is a playoff game between Orlando and I. There is no fantasy life after this point. So me and the commissioner are going to have to duke it out. It's very gay terminology. I don't know if anyone ever says that anymore. Does anybody ever say, like, bro, me and you are going to have to fucking duke it out. You keep fucking talking shit about me, bro. All right, this goddamn... I can't express to you guys how much I haven't gotten used. I told myself that when I started doing the recaps, I'd be like, okay, I'll get used to what ESPN looks like, and like I still hate this shit. Let's move on to the week 12 matchups. Of course, you have Orlando and I going up against one another. So far, I've decided to get Jimmy G in there. I think I trust Jimmy G. I've got my eye on maybe 2 other people. If I change my mind from here till Sunday, I will be impulsive about it. I'm sorry. Speaking of impulsive, I brought up the thing with Paul. Paul, Paul, I just don't want to spar with you. I just don't feel like it. I get what your point is. It's a dumb point. It's a stupid point, that no one is exempt from the bench. But let me tell you this, because I remember that you made a comment, and I screenshotted it because I was going to read it, but I turned my phone off for the recaps now because I hate getting phone calls. But you made a point about Ezekiel Elliott, and you said that if a number one was performing poorly, you would bench them. Here's where I disagree. This is how I would go about it. If Ezekiel Elliott was performing poorly, which in my opinion, poorly for your number one elite running back can mean 12 points every week, and I wouldn't exactly, get frustrated over that, but that is a bit disappointing to, to have your player score, just a hair over 10 points. But I would say that if Ezekiel Elliott was constantly scoring 11, 12, 9 points, I would never bench him. The first thing that I would have done is trade him. You see, you guys make a very strong case. Paul makes a very strong case for adaptability being the smartest tactic that you could employ. But in your mind, adaptability is bench him and bring in someone else. In my mind, adaptability is get him off of your team. You fall victim to the common trading tropes where it's like, you put a guy on the bench for like 3 weeks. And, this is Eric's mentioned this before where, people start to, project values onto your team and do this like weird arbitrary thing where it's like, but you benched him for 2 weeks. So that changes his value. Like, I think we all agree, like, one thing that I think is law is if I have Ezekiel and Ezekiel, he shit for the first 4 weeks of the season. And if I try to trade him right before the trade deadline, which, was a couple weeks ago, I think it was like week 8 or week 9 or something like that. If I try to trade him at week 8 or week 9, I would not, I haven't ever and would never tell someone, look, that's my number one pick, bro. You got to give me something. Like, no, he's been a complete disappointment up until this point. So his value's dropped. You can't get number one for him. That's why you sell high. You sell high. If he gets the first month, if he's like 8, 9, 12, and then the quarterback gets injured, and then then it's like, oh, this ship's about to sink. Then it's like week 4 or something. You trade him, and you should get equal value, I guess. Depending in the eyes of the person that you're you're trying to trade. All of a sudden, I got all this fucking energy. Look at me, like fuck. Look at this guy, huh? I'm actually crying inside because I'm 4-7. And I lost to Andy 2 weeks. God, that loss against Andy really fucking hurt. But anyway, so I think you're at the mercy of people's BS when you sit somebody for like 3 weeks, kind of like you did. Look, you sat Todd Gurley, dude. You sat Todd Gurley, and I think that's absolutely shameful. Like, you shouldn't have sat him. And I wasn't being manipulative, by the way. I was seriously telling you that was the wrong move. Like, you go with Gurley because you're already in the playoffs, you fucking dick. You're already in the playoffs. What do you get? Like you guys try to win every week. Like, you guys are like, no, I gotta win every. Like, obviously we're all trying to win, but you guys are like intentionally like trying to like carve victories when you already had 6 wins. So what? You lose to me. This week you're going up against Dro. I would hope that you would win that fucking game. I'm gonna make a statement. Let's move past that. I'm gonna make a statement about that. By the way, if that turns into you losing, so we have Orlando and I going up against one another. Then we have the Pineapple Jugglers against Diego Papa. That's no one cares. Joe, fuck you if you even put up a fight. We have the Black Cat going up against Team Fuck You. This is likely a game where Team Fuck You might be eliminated, but let's see if Hensel has some fight in him for this week. Now, Rollo Tomassi against Nida Khalid. Look, this whole Alfred thing is going to come full circle, okay? It's going to come full circle, and I'll tell you why. I beat Orlando, and if you beat Pedro, then it's going to be me and Pedro, another playoff week for me next week. You win and you're in. If you lose to Pedro this week, dude, like you're like the mom in the hen house, like you pamper your chicks, to the maximum level. You fucking give this guy Drew Brees, and now all of a sudden, dude, if Paul's team, I'll never hate someone after a loss as much as I'll hate Paul if he loses to Dro in this game. Especially if Dro's team performs like it performs. Like if Dro scores like 76 points and Paul gets like 70, like Paul, moving on from that, man. I'm gonna fucking punch you in your face. I swear to fucking God if you lose this game. We have Ewok Rape going up against Dad Bod to finish out these scores, and that's a big game because Eric wins and Eric has a legitimate shot to take the division from Ed because Ed has a pathetic 1,600 points pathetic as a division leader, and Eric, I'm not gonna fucking click it, but if I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me. Of course, Eric is gonna correct me. I think Eric has 956. I don't want to click it because this thing is gonna take forever to load. So that finishes out your Week 11 scores. I also want to give you a bit of paper here. I noticed that Andy is pretty much on the cusp of winning his division. He's going to win the division because I don't think there's any way that Andy loses to Joe. This will be Andy's third division championship. In 2014, as the Mother Lovers with a record of 9-3, he won the Conan the Barbarian division that year, and of course later losing to Jay in the chip, and then also as in Cyril Marbles Tanaka with a record of 8-4 in 2016. He later lost to Paul in the Cop Bowl, and that division was called the El Caporal division. So, Andy, congratulations for winning your division. Of course, this brings you one step closer to fantasy immortality, of you getting closer to the chip. You've sniffed it, and that's pretty much all you've gotten thus far. You've gotten a sniff, but you've never gotten a bite. And you probably never get a bite. Kamish, it's you and me, man. It's you and me. You've got better matchups that you have. You've got much better matchups. You've got phenomenal matchups with Matt Ryan, and I've got Jimmy G, and I've got Ezekiel Elliott. I've got T.Y. Hilton getting out there in about 4 minutes. It's currently 8:26. As always, may your quarterbacks get hurt before they leave the locker room. May your running backs pull their hamstrings. And may your wide receivers get arrested for marijuana possession. Oh, that's right. Go fuck yourselves.